In February, we headed back to New Zealand, me for the third time and Jane for the second time. We left a snowstorm in Baltimore, slept the night at the airport hotel, and then took the trip to Auckland by way of San Francisco. Once again, it was a long flight, but when we arrived in Auckland, it was beautiful weather, 80 degrees, sunshine, and a light breeze. Quite a change from the brutal winter we've had back here in Baltimore. Second day we were there, we took a ferry out to Waikiki Island and then took a wine and dinner tour. There were about 10 of us on the tour. It was an all-day tour. Beautiful island, great scenery, good wine, great food, and a nice way to spend your second day after a long plane trip. The next day I went out to Tiri Tiri Island.
I've taken a day trip from
Here's a
Auckland
video of it.
to
Um,
Tiri Tiri Island.
this island, what they've done is
It's
they've
a sanctuary,
removed all the predators
been
that
completely
came over with the Maoris and the Europeans.
devoided.
Then they replanted the island with
Many
indigenous
animals
trees and
that are
shrubbery.
not native.
And this has been going on for about 30 years, and now they've had a great return of the bird populations
Down there, I see some
to this island.
birds.
They've had a lot of trouble in New Zealand with predators killing off native birds and other native animals. And this is one of those projects where they're trying to restore all these animals to a habitat where they can survive. The island was beautiful. I took a hike around the island. As you can see, the weather was perfect. That same afternoon, Terry arrived in Auckland. She had been down visiting Claire and Cliff, and she arrived just in time for the Chinese New Year, which we went out to Albert Park in Auckland that night to celebrate. There were hundreds of lanterns over the field and up in the trees. Just a beautiful night. Weather was perfect, and it was a lot of fun. Then we headed up north, went to Paia and took a trip all the way up to Cape Reinga, which is the northern tip of New Zealand. Stayed at this great place, Allure Lodge. Had a beautiful view of the Bay of Islands. The man who ran the place, he was friendly as could be. He told us all these different places to go eat. He told us which tours to take. He told us which scenery was around, which islands were good, which tour operators were good. So we spent 5 days up there, and we went out to different islands. Terry and I actually kayaked one day. We did a lot of hiking around these islands. You can see here, every once in a while we get a little windy and a little cloudy, but in general, we got shorts on and weather was good. And it's absolutely spectacular. I mean, just look at the scenery. This is what we were looking at for 5 days in a row. Russell, the hellhole of the Pacific. This was an early whaling town, and evidently they had quite a few characters that were showed up there. Cape Reinga, the northern tip, little sign telling you how far it is to different places. This was an all-day tour, and so we got on a bus and we went 90 Mile Beach. We went to Cape Reinga. We stopped at numerous places along the way to see the sights. Here we are at 90 Mile Beach. The bus went right along that beach there. There's actually a state highway, that beach. One afternoon we went out to Waitangi, where the treaty between the Maoris and the British was signed in 1840. The treaty sort of gave most of the power to the British, but It was very interesting, and here's some Maori friends I met. Now it's off to. So we dropped Terry off in Auckland, and Jenny and I headed down to Matamata to the Shire movie set. You know, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and this was really special. The set is has been exactly kept the way it was in the movie. You know, reading the Lord of the Rings as many times as I have, when I thought of the Shire, this is exactly what I thought it would have looked like. Peter Jackson flew all over New Zealand looking for a place where he could use for the Shire. And he wanted some low hills, he wanted some water, and he wanted some big trees. And he found it right outside this little town in the North Island of New Zealand. It was a great trip. Then it was off to Lake Taupo. Yeah, and then for the real highlight of the trip, we head from Lake Taupo down to Stillwater. Took a trip across the Cook Strait and met up with Claire and Cliff at their home. And as usual, we just had a fantastic time. We took little day trips, little hikes, and once again saw some beautiful sights. But the best part was just hanging out with the two of them. Here is Cliff. He's on this bridge here with this aqua water. I mean, this water is just spectacular color. It comes down off of the glaciers and it has this bluish tinge. Of course, you still get the crazy driving in New Zealand. Here's a bridge that you share with the trains. Walk down trails and we just run into a beautiful waterfall. Go to the coast and watch blowholes come up through the cracks in the rocks. Could just stroll around their house and look at the low mountains with clouds drifting through them. Just spectacular. Here's their garden. I mean, they got this fantastic garden, and they get all these vegetables and come in and just whip them up, cook them up for dinner. I mean, it is good living. You know, it's not just vegetables they cook. You get the pastries, you get the breads. If you don't want to eat inside, there are local little cafes we went to. It's always got some interesting signs in New Zealand. You know, like no swimming because you might drown. Yeah, voila. Then we headed back to Christchurch. Drove over Arthur's Pass. Christchurch is really kind of sad because still showing the effects of the quakes in 2010 and 2011. Just spent one day in Christchurch, went out to dinner. Oh, this is the remains of my Holiday Inn that I stayed in with Andrew in 2010. Still some beautiful spots there. After a day in Christchurch, we hopped on the plane and took a long, multiple plane rides back home. Back home, it was cold, and it's been cold ever since we've gotten back.